Page 247. Jaffe also provided a Tech Company 3 Executive 1 a document containing the physical addresses, email addresses, Internet Protocol addresses, email domains, and other personal information associated with various Trump associates, including information about some spouses and family members, the Trump associates list. Tech Company 3 Executive 1 was highly uncomfortable with this task. Still, according to Tech Company 3 Executive 1, he and others complied with the instructions because Jaffe was a powerful figure at these companies. The companies thereafter embarked on a data analysis and opposition research project concerning Trump and his associates, which they codenamed Crimson Rhino. As part of the research project, Tech Company 3 Executive 1 and his associates drafted a report that they provided to Jaffe. The report's preliminary result was that the researchers observed no connection that clearly indicated direct communication between said individuals and Russia that would imply money transfers from Russia to the United States within the last 90 days. Jaffe also tasked others, including an employee of Tech Company 1 Employee 1, to use resources at his companies to conduct opposition research about Trump. According to Tech Company 1 Employee 1, one of the services that Tech Company 1 provided was access to domain name systems information. As part of these services, Tech Company 1 stored approximately 150 billion domain names transactions per day, which was approximately 5 terabytes of data. Although Tech Company 1 Employee 1 acknowledged that Tech Company 1 did not conduct political research as part of its business operations during the 2016 campaign, Jaffe asked Tech Company 1 Employee 1 to run searches of Tech Company 1's domain name system as DNS data logs related to the Alpha Bank allegations. According to Tech Company 1 Employee 1, this included creating scripts to pull data related to various domains and IP addresses, including the domain trump-email.com, page 248, and various domains that included the phrase alpha in them. Tech Company 1 Employee 1 could not recall conducting any other searches of Tech Company 1's DNS data for political projects related in any way to specific political organizations, but Tech Company 1 Employee 1 never asked Jaffe about the purpose of the project or whether these searches were on behalf of a political campaign. Tech Company 1 Employee 1 has stated, in sum and substance, that he did not ask because he did not want to know. Jaffe's similar tasked Tech Company 2 Executive 1 and other researchers with conducting opposition research regarding Trump. For instance, Jaffe emailed these researchers the same Trump associates list that he had provided to Tech Company 3 Executive 1. Among those whom Jaffe and Tech Company 2 Executive 1 enlisted were researchers at University 1 who were assigned to a then-pending federal cybersecurity contract with the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, or DARPA. At the time, Jaffe was negotiating an agreement between Tech Company 1 and University 1 to sell large amounts of Internet data to the university for use under the DARPA contract. The intended purpose of this agreement and of University 1's sensitive work with DARPA was to gather and analyze Internet metadata to detect malicious cyber attacks. Both Jaffe and Tech Company 2 Executive 1 worked with two of these University 1 researchers, University Researcher 1 and University 1 Researcher 2, to mine Internet data to conduct opposition research. As part of these efforts, Sussman and Elias began facilitating corroboration and information sharing by Jaffe, Fusion GPS, and the Clinton campaign. For example, email records reflected that in August 2016, Sussman began exchanging emails with personnel from Fusion and Elias containing the subject line, "Connecting you all by email." The contents of these emails had been withheld pursuant to asserted attorney-client privilege. Footnote 1423. Perkins-Coie Privilege Log Date 9/7/2021, Sheet 2, at lines 1 through 5. In the Sussman case, Fusion GPS withheld over 1,500 documents, claiming they were covered by attorney-client privilege as they were purportedly prepared to assist Perkins-Coie in providing legal advice to law firm clients. The Clinton campaign and Fusion GPS, in the event that then-candidate Trump sued them for defamation. Before trial, the government challenged their privilege claim and successfully moved the court to inspect a sampling of approximately 38 documents in camera. After reviewing the materials and receiving briefing not only from the government and Sussman's counsel, but also from Fusion GPS's counsel for the DNC, and counsel for the Clinton campaign, the court determined that 22 of the 38 emails were improperly withheld as privileged. Specifically, the court rejected their privilege claim because the emails at issue solely related to disseminating the information they, Fusion GPS, and others had gathered. That was the United States v. Sussman. Page 249. Later that month, Jaffe also began communicating with Fusion GPS personnel. Email records offered at the Sussman trial and described in further detail below reflect that in the ensuing months, Fusion GPS employees communicated with the news reporters regarding the Alpha Bank allegations and urged them to publish articles about them. Sussman took additional steps to integrate the Alpha Bank-related allegations into the Clinton campaign's opposition research efforts. For example, in the summer of 2016, Sussman met in Perkins Coie offices with Fusion personnel and with Christopher Steele, whose dossier-related activities are described above. Fusion had, at the time, retained Steele to conduct opposition research. Sussman and Steele have each testified separately about the meeting, and their accounts differ as to what occurred. Although Sussman testified before Congress that the purpose of the meeting was to vet Steele for the Clinton campaign, given Sussman's knowledge of national security matters, Sussman never acknowledged discussing the Alpha Bank allegations with Steele and has maintained that the contents of their meeting are privileged. In contrast, Steele testified under oath in a British legal proceeding that, during the meeting, Sussman told him about the Alpha Bank allegations. Steele further testified that, after the meeting, Fusion personnel tasked Steele to research and produce intelligence reports about Alpha Bank, which he did. Page 250. According to the government records and public information, Steele also later provided the substance of the Alpha Bank allegations to State Department personnel and Fusion GPS, and Steele provided such information to Bruce Orr, an official at the department. Emails, billing records, and testimonial evidence offered at trial show that during approximately the same time period and before approaching the FBI about these matters, Sussman provided the Alpha Bank allegations to Eric Lichtbau, a reporter for the New York Times. Law firm records reflect that, after providing the Alpha Bank allegations to the media, Sussman apprised Elias of his efforts, who, in turn, appears to have communicated with the Clinton campaign's senior leadership concerning these issues. Emails and billing records further show that during the same time period, Sussman and Jaffe worked together to draft a white paper, which summarized the Alpha Bank allegations and which Sussman provided to the FBI during his September 19 meeting with James Baker. Sussman billed significant time drafting this paper to the Clinton campaign. In addition, and as described in further detail below, Jaffe also solicited input on this white paper from the University One researchers. Sussman incorporated at least one of the aforementioned researchers into his efforts to disseminate the Alpha Bank allegations to the media for the benefit of the Clinton campaign. For example, emails reflected that on September 17, 2016, 2 days before his meeting with the FBI, Sussman emailed University One researcher 2, stating that, quote, "We have a mutual acquaintance," end quote, in context apparently referring to Jaffe. Soon thereafter, Sussman spoke with University One researcher 2. During their conversation, Sussman told University One researcher 2 that the data underlying the Alpha Bank allegations had been lawfully collected, thus reflecting Sussman's apparent knowledge and concerning the data's origins. University One researcher 2 also said that Jaffe asked him to speak with the media about the Alpha Bank allegations, which he subsequently did. Actions by Tech Company 2, Executive 1, and others, and additional actions by Jaffe. The office gathered emails and communications between Jaffe, employees of various Internet companies, and other researchers regarding the use of Internet data related to the Trump campaign. Among the Internet data Jaffe and his associates obtained was DNS Internet traffic pertaining to Spectrum Health, Trump Tower, Trump Central Park West apartment building, and the Executive Office of the President. For example, Tech Company 2 Executive 1 referenced the Trump associates that Jaffe had provided. This is all in italics, so I guess this is what he's referring to. Regarding this whole project, my opinion is that from DNS, all we could gain, even in the best case, is an inference. I have not the slightest doubt the illegal money and relationships exist between pro-Russian and pro-Trump, meaning actual people very close to Trump, if not himself. But even if we found what Rodney asked us to find in DNS, we don't see the money flow, and we don't see the content of some message saying, "Send me the money here," etc. I could fill out a sales form on 2 websites, faking the other company's email address in each form and cause them to appear to communicate with each other in DNS. And other ways I can think of, and I feel sure University One researcher 2 can think of. If Rodney can take the inference we gain through this team exercise and cause someone to apply more useful tools of more useful observation or study or questioning, then work to develop even an inference may be worthwhile. That is how I understood the task, because Rodney didn't tell me more context or specific things. Now we're out of italics, but it's the same message. What Cyber Researcher 1 has been digging up is going to wind up being significant. It's just not the case that you can rest assured that Hillary's opposition research and whatever professional governments and investigative journalists are also digging, they just don't all come up with the same thing or interpret them the same way. But if you find any benefit in what he has done or is doing, you need to say so to encourage him, because we are both killing ourselves here every day for weeks. And it goes on. Trump advisor domains I've been using. These include all from Rodney's PDF, the Trump associate list, plus more from Cyber Researcher 1's work. Page 252. The above email reflects the fact that Joffe's tasking likely triggered or affected the research efforts that ultimately culminated in Sussman's meeting with Baker. Joffe's response states that the task is indeed broad and that the ability to provide evidence, if of anything, that shows an attempt to behave badly would make the VIPs happy, according to Joffe, and VIPs were looking for a true story that can be used as the basis for a closer examination, and the interactions between Trump and Alpha Bank would be a jackpot. Joffe proceeded to disseminate the Alpha Bank allegations despite having previously expressed and received from other expressions of serious doubts and differing views about their strength, and purposefully crafted a written analysis to conceal the weakness of the allegations. For example, on August 21, 2016, Joffe urged the researchers to push forward with additional research concerning Trump, which he stated would give the base of a very useful narrative. Later in the same email, Joffe expressed his own belief that the TrumpEmail.com domain was a red herring, noting that the host for that domain is, quote, a legitimate, valid customer relationship management company, end quote. Joffe therefore concluded that, quote, we can ignore it, together with others that seem to be part of the marketing world, end quote. On August 22, 2016, University-wide Researcher 1 expressed his view that Joffe's research progress was flawed, stating that the following: let's for a moment think of the best case scenario where we are able to show somehow that DNS, MX, or otherwise communication exists between Trump and Russia. How do we plan to defend against the criticism that it is not spoofed EDP traffic we are observing? There is no answer to that. Let's assume again that they are not smart enough to refute our best case scenario. Rodney, do you realize that we will have to expose every trick we have in our bag to even make a very weak association? Let's all reflect upon that for a moment. Sorry, folks, but unless we get combined net flow and DNS traffic collected at critical points between suspect organizations, we cannot technically make any claims that would fly public scrutiny. This is not a typical attribution problem when the two parties, defenders versus attackers, are clearly separated. In this case, we will have not only the Trump folks trying to shoot this down, but all the privacy freaks trying to come up with crazy conspiracy theories on how we obtain the data. Sorry to say this, we are nowhere close to coming with a plan to attack this problem that will fly in the public domain. The only thing that drive us at this point is that we just do not like Trump. This will not fly in the eyes of public scrutiny. Folks, I'm afraid we have tunnel vision. Time to regroup? Page 253. On September 14, 2016, Joffe solicited the views of the researchers on the white paper and asked these DNS experts to consider the paper not using their expertise, but conducting the reviews as if they were not experts. He says, please read as if you had no prior knowledge or involvement, and you were handed this document as a security expert, not a DNS expert, and were asked, is this plausible as an explanation? Not to be able to say that this is, without doubt, fact, but it merely be plausible. Do not spend more than a short while on this. If you spend more than an hour, you have failed the assignment, hopefully less, and a smiley face. University Researcher 1 replied, endorsing Joffe's approach. A DNS expert would poke several holes to this hypothesis, primarily around visibility, about which very smartly you do not talk about. That being said, I do not think even the top security non-DNS researchers can refute your statements. Nice, he says. University-wide Researcher 1 explained to our investigators that he endorsed Joffe's approach of downplaying the paper's weaknesses because Joffe was important to the success of the then pending DARPA contract with University One and University One Researcher One, therefore felt pressure to please Jaffe. Apart from this email, however, University One Researcher One consistently maintained that the Alpha Bank data did not support any definitive conclusions. The following morning, University One Researcher 2 responded to Jaffe by disputing one of the paper's key findings, stating that, quote, Tor exit nodes by definition route traffic for all users since they do not know the origin of the traffic. To say that the Tor exit is exclusively used by Alpha Bank goes too far, end quote. Tech Company 2 Executive 1 responded to Jaffe, stating, in part, that the paper's conclusion was plausible in the narrow scope defined by Jaffe, and noting in part that, quote, if the white paper intends to say that there are communications between at least Alpha Bank and Trump, which are being intentionally hidden by Alpha Bank and Trump, I absolutely believe that is the case. Page 254, University One Researcher 2 replied on the same date, stating that he believed that there was, quote, a threshold of probable cause, end quote, for criminal and other federal violations. On September 16, 2016, Tech Company 2 Executive 1 emailed these researchers, discussing, among other things, the draft white paper's allegation that there was a Tor exit node at Spectrum Health and that Alpha Bank had used to communicate with the Trump Organization. Tech Company 2 Executive 1 initially noted that University One Researcher 2 had given his adversaries every courtesy, and that if everyone in America were as measured, fair, and careful, what concern could we ever have? Tech Company 2 Executive 1 continued that she had no reason to think that Alpha Bank has a VPN somehow through mail1.trump-email.com. That would suggest we are dealing with masterminds of the internet. Tech Company 2 Executive 1 added that she firmly believed that there were communications between the Trump Organization and Alpha Bank, and that she did not, in the I don't know why they write it like this. It looks like she said this part, that she did not care in the least whether I'm right or wrong about VPN from Alpha Bank, Tor from Alpha Bank, or just SMTP artifact pointing to a three-way connection. Rodney has carefully crafted a message that could work to accomplish the goals. Weakening that message in any way would, in my opinion, be a mistake. Notably, Tor publishes a comprehensive list of exit nodes dating back to February 22, 2010. FBI experts examined this data for dates between February 22, 2010 and September 1, 2021. No instances of IP addresses in the range of 167.73.xx assigned to Spectrum Health were ever indexed as Tor exit nodes. The FBI experts advised that historical Tor exit node data conclusively disproves this white paper allegation in its entirety, and furthermore, the construction of the Tor network makes the described arrangement impossible. Even if true or indeed possible, using the Tor network in the alleged manner would result in worse anonymization and scrutiny than simply using Tor in its default configuration. The experts explain that it would instead amount to a static proxy with a known endpoint that could be more easily correlated with traffic to the relatively small number of guard nodes, allowing the identification for the true source IP much more easily than using a randomly selected exit node for each connection as the system is designed to do. It is entirely likely that one or more users at some time connected to both Spectrum Health and Alpha Bank using Tor and may have even come through the same exit node, but this in no way indicates any kind of correlation given the deliberately random nature of Tor routing. Page 255. Sussman's meeting with the FBI. The night before he met with Baker, Sussman sent the following text message to Baker's personal cell phone. Jim. 255. Sussman's meeting with the FBI. The night before he met with Baker, Sussman sent the following text message to Baker's personal cell phone. Jim, it's Michael Sussman. I have something time-sensitive and sensitive I need to discuss. Do you have availability for a short meeting tomorrow? I'm coming on my own, not on behalf of a client or company. Want to help the Bureau. Thanks. Baker responded, okay, I will find a time. What might work for you? To which Sussman replied, any time but lunchtime, you name it. The next day, Sussman met with Baker at FBI headquarters. According to Baker, the meeting occurred in Baker's office and lasted approximately 30 minutes. No one else was present. Baker explained that Sussman said during the meeting that he had information regarding a, quote, surreptitious communications channel, end quote, between Alpha Bank and the Trump Organization, and that he stated, quote, "I'm not here on behalf of any particular client," end quote. Baker said that he was 100% confident that Sussman made this statement during the meeting. Because Baker considered Sussman a friend and colleague, Baker believed that the statement was truthful. Baker also stated that Sussman provided him with thumb drives containing data and white papers that explained the covert channel. Baker also noted that Sussman said that major news organizations were aware of Alpha Bank allegations and were intent on publishing about the issue relatively soon. As a result, Baker considered this to be an urgent matter because if a news organization were to publish the allegations, any secret communications channel would likely disappear. Thus, soon after he met with Sussman, Baker spoke with Assistant Director for Counterintelligence Priestap and Deputy General Counsel Anderson, who handled counterintelligence and cyber matters. Baker believed that Priestap and Anderson needed to be aware of the allegations because they involved a Russian bank purportedly making an effort to communicate with the Trump Organization. This seemed to Baker on his face to be a potential national security threat. Baker relayed to Priestap and Anderson the details of his meeting, including Sussman's specific representation that he was not there on behalf of any client and a general explanation of the Alpha Bank allegations. Page 255. Both Priestap and Anderson took contemporaneous notes. Priestap wrote in his FBI notebook that Sussman said, "Not doing this for any client." And on this page, there's also a picture of the notes. It says, similarly, Anderson took the following notes, which stated in part, no specific client, but a group of cyber academics talked with him about research. Despite their notes, neither Priestap nor Anderson remembered receiving this information from Baker. Baker also recalled that he briefed both Director Comey and Deputy Director Andrew McCabe about the Alpha Bank allegations. Footnote 1465. As noted previously, McCabe and Comey declined to be interviewed. Page 257. The FBI's Alpha Bank investigation. Following his meeting with Sussman and briefings of FBI leadership, Baker recalled that he gave either Priestap or Stroke the white papers and thumb drives from Sussman. The materials then made their way quickly to the Cyber Division. At trial, an FBI cyber agent, Cyber Agent 1, testified that the agent and his supervisor, Cyber Agent 2, were asked to take custody of the Alpha Bank materials and to obtain signatures for the accompanying chain of custody form. A review of that form showed that Baker relinquished custody of the materials to Stroke, who then provided the materials to Eric Spohr, the Deputy Assistant Director of the Cyber Division. According to this form, Spohr thereafter transferred custody to Cyber Agent 2. Cyber Agent 1 testified that he was able to get signatures from Baker and Spohr for the form, but Stroke was unavailable and someone else obtained his signature. The Cyber Division's review of the Alpha Bank allegation. Following the receipt of the materials, Cyber Agent 2 asked Cyber Agent 1 to review the data provided on the thumb drives along with the white papers and identify whether there were any cyber equities, such as an allegation of hacking. Cyber Agent 2 also tasked Cyber Agent 1 to review the data and compared it to the white paper and provided an assessment as to whether the data supported the white paper's findings. The white paper that Cyber Agent 1 reviewed, titled White Paper Number 1, Auditable Version 3, contained an initial section titled Findings that stated, the Trump Organization is using a very unusually configured secret email server in Pennsylvania for current and ongoing email communications with Alpha Bank Moscow and with Alpha Bank Moscow through another unusually configured server, a Tor exit node, at Spectrum Health in Michigan. Page 256. These servers are configured for direct communication between the Trump Organization and Alpha Bank to the exclusion of all other systems. The only plausible explanation for this server configuration is that it shows the Trump Organization and Alpha Bank to be using multiple sophisticated layers of protection in order to obfuscate their considerable recent email traffic. The white paper further stated that the, quote, secret email server domain was mail1.trump-email.com, was hosted by a Pennsylvania-based company. Listrak, which is a reasonably well-known CRM, customer relations management company, It provides large-scale distribution of marketing emails, usually sending emails to thousands of recipients hundreds of times a day. Within a day of receiving the Alpha Bank materials, Cyber Agent 1 and Cyber Agent 2 drafted a report of their analysis. The report's summary stated that they had assessed there is no CYD, or Cyber Division, equity in this report, and that the research conducted in the report reveals some questionable investigative steps taken and conclusions drawn. The report acknowledged that there was no allegation of hacking, and so there was no reason for the Cyber Division to investigate further. The report also stated that it appears abnormal and that a presidential candidate who wanted to conduct secret correspondence with the Russian government or Russian bank would 1. Name his secret server mail1.trump-email.com, 2. Use a domain trump-email.com registered to his own organization, and then 3. Communicate directly with the Russian bank's IP address as opposed to using Tor or proxy servers. Cyber Agent 1 testified that both he and Cyber Agent 2 did not agree with the conclusion in the white paper and assessed that the authors of the white paper jumped to some conclusions that were not supported by the technical data. The methodology was questionable, and the conclusions drawn did not ring true at all. In interviews with the office, both Cyber Agent 1 and Cyber Agent 2 said they were proud of their work because they had both come to the same conclusion despite their very own different political views. The opening of the FBI's investigation. After the Cyber Division's review, FBI leadership referred the matter to a squad in the Chicago field office responsible for investigating Eurasian counterintelligence and cyber matters, page 259. The investigation referred to a Chicago field office agent, Chicago Agent 1, who had worked on both the FBI's mid-year examination investigation, the investigation related to Hillary Clinton's email server, and Crossfire Hurricane. Chicago Agent 1 was joined by a new FBI agent, Chicago Agent 2. Chicago Agent 2 was Chicago Agent 1's trainee and was the co-case agent and primary lead for the Alpha Bank investigation. Chicago Agent 1 and Chicago Agent 2 opened a full investigation into the network communications between a U.S.-based server and the Russia Alpha Bank organization. A full investigation, as described above in Section 3B2, may be opened if there is, quote, an articulable factual basis for the investigation that reasonably indicates that an activity constituting a federal crime or a threat to the national security may be occurring. According to the case agents and other records, during the investigation, it was FBI leadership who decided to open a full investigation. Indeed, 2 days after the meeting between Baker and Sussman, Supervisory Special Agent 1, the Crossfire Hurricane supervisor, reached out to Chicago Agent 1. Supervisory Special Agent 1 told Chicago Agent 1 that people on the 7th floor, to include director, are fired up about this server, end quote. Supervisory Special Agent 1 further stated that if the investigation had not been opened, he would have reached out to Chicago Agent 1's supervisor because, quote, pre-step says it's not an option, we must do it, end quote. Chicago Agent 1 responded that the case team was opening a CI case today. Still, the team was already skeptical of the allegations. Chicago Agent 1 noted that the team was, quote, leaning towards this being a false server not attributed to the Trump organization, end quote, but they would run it down. Chicago Agent 1 and Chicago Agent 2 memorialized the opening of the investigation in the EC. Chicago Agent 1 and Chicago Agent 2 later acknowledged that there were certain errors in this document. Of most importance to the office was a representation made as to the source of the white papers. The EC stated that the Department of Justice provided the FBI with a white paper that was produced by an anonymous third party. Page 260. According to both Chicago Agent 1 and Chicago Agent 2, this representation was an error, and both recalled that they understood the allegations were represented to the FBI's general counsel by an anonymous source. The close hold on Sussman's identity as a source. In evaluating the FBI's early actions related to the Alpha Bank investigation, one issue that the office identified was the decision by the FBI to put a close hold on Sussman's identity as the course of the allegations and to prevent its disclosure to the Alpha Bank case team. A close hold is when the FBI's leadership protects specific information, such as the identity of a source, and prevents the field or investigative team from learning that information. The investigation revealed that multiple members of the Alpha Bank case team were frustrated and concerned that they were prevented from interviewing the source of the allegations. Accordingly, the office attempted to determine whether Baker or other senior FBI officials may have protected Sussman's identity improperly to further the Alpha Bank allegations against Trump for political reasons or to mask Sussman's ties to the DNC and the Clinton campaign.